Our test subject is Kelvin, and in the initial FMS we had him perform the deep squat. Due to his ankle immobility, we had to elevate his heels onto the board. As you can see, his trunk leans forward, and on the down phase of the squat, he goes into hypolordosis. In the post-FMS deep squat, you can see that his trunk still shifts forward and he still goes into hypolordosis. However, we do see an increase in ankle mobility because he is able to complete the squat without having his heels elevated.
For Kelvin's hurdle step, as you can see, he struggles to keep his knee, hip, and ankle in alignment. And you see the dowel is not parallel as he takes the step over. He also struggles to keep his foot dorsiflexed, and he shows that he has bad frontal plane stability. Then when we took the post-FMS, he showed better frontal plane stability, and he was able to keep his hip, knee, and ankle in better alignment. However, he still struggled to keep his foot dorsiflexed as he stepped over the hurdle. Kelvin also shows that he still has right and left muscular imbalances, as when he takes the step over the hurdle with his left foot, we see that he struggles to keep the dowel parallel to the ground.
In our next initial FMS assessment, we have Kelvin perform the inline lunge. As you can see, his back heel doesn't stay on the board and the dowel is unable to remain in contact with his sacrum. Throughout the movement, you can see a partial loss of balance and he is unable to maintain alignment throughout the lunge. His knee also does not touch the front foot of the heel. In the post-assessment, we notice a great increase in ankle mobility because his heel is able to maintain contact with the board. The dowel also maintains contact with the sacrum, and an increase in balance and alignment is also noticed.
In his initial trunk stability test, we see him struggle to move his body as a whole, and he goes into plantar flexion, and we see right and left muscular imbalances. In his post trunk stability test, he was able to move his body as a whole better. He still goes into plantar flexion, and he still shows some signs of right and left muscular imbalances, but it's not as bad.
Our next initial FMS assessment was the rotary stability. For both sides, Kelvin was unable to perform the ipsilateral movement and maintain a neutral lordotic curvature. He was also unable to fully extend his leg, and the movement looked very rigid. However, for his right side, he was able to perform the contralateral movement and touch his elbow to his knee. In the post-FMS assessment for rotary stability, Kelvin is still unable to perform the ipsilateral movement for both sides. When trying to perform the contralateral movement, he struggles to come into contact with his knee and elbow. However, when trying this, we do notice a decrease in spinal flexion. Our next initial FMS assessment was shoulder mobility. When comparing pre to post test, we noticed a drastic increase in his flexibility, and he was also able to pass both clearing tests.
We believe that Kelvin was able to show these changes from his pre-FMS to his post-FMS because we were able to neurally activate his glutes as well as teach his pelvis to maintain a neutral lordotic curvature in the frontal and sagittal planes. The exercise that we believe contributed the most to Kelvin's glute activation was the glute bridges. And we believe that because he started off just without the band, he was able to neurally activate his glutes and increase proprioception of his glutes. And then when we finally were able to start incorporating the band, he was able to finally start strengthening his glutes. And then we were able to further progress him onto the Bosu ball to further strengthen his glutes. We attribute Kelvin's increased stability in the frontal and sagittal plane of his lumbar spine to the single leg RDLs. We believe that when we progressed to feeding the mistake, he was able to increase the proprioception of his frontal plane stabilizers of the posterior glute med. And when we were to further progress to a contralateral aid, we were able to further increase proprioception for both the sagittal and the frontal plane. As for the FMS test that we saw the most improvement in his shoulder mobility, we would like to attribute that to the shoulder feeding the mistake to increase proprioception of the affected area, and then increasing his rotator or strengthening his rotator cuff muscles through like the rotator cuff pendulum swing. However, Kelvin did say that this did help him help his pain wise when he was lifting. He said he still felt tightness in his shoulder, and it wasn't until that he talked to his physical therapist, and his physical therapist was able to perform a pec minor active release, that he finally was able to get a better range of motion in his shoulder. Kelvin was able to take strides from his pre to post FMS test. However, we still do feel like there is still more to be done. For example, how we still saw spinal flexion in his rotary stability test. How he still went into hypolodorsis in his deep squat. We could start incorporating more lat work to help pull his lumbar dorsal fascia into a hyperextension to help counteract the hypolordorsis. So if we were to continue on, we could include more things like lat pull downs, pull-ups, incorporating the psoas pinch to keep the lumbar curvature in a neutral position. As well as Kelvin's therapist telling him that he needed the active release for his pec minor. He also attributed some of Kelvin's bad movement patterns to his foot pronation. So to decrease his foot pronation, we would like to start incorporating more, if we were to continue on, intramuscular footwork like the paper crunch, or walking barefoot on rocks, or even even putting marbles on the floor and having trying to pick the marbles up with his feet. This could also mean, because he pronates his feet so much, that he puts a lot of knee adduction or varus moments on his knee. So another way we could actually counteract that is to have him walk in a narrow stance. Something we would have liked to see more of an improvement in would have been his rotary stability. Even though he was able to progress with the exercises, like doing the chop and lift and the inline stability test, he did still show signs of bad rotary stability from his post FMS test. So to help incorporate more rotary stability, we could incorporate more of like suitcase walks, or the side plank